Okay, I justly remembered now. I forgot that to explain in respect to where the notion of heaven and hell comes from, or where heaven and hell comes from, and why you look up and why you look down. In such respect, I forgot to mention the universe and the stars. Okay, see, I mentioned the water and evaporation and incineration and all that, but yeah, I forgot to mention the stars. Now you might ask, well, what's with the stars? What does the stars have to do with heaven? Well, not only the stars, but more so the universe, you see. Because when you look up, you see the stars, but you not only see the stars, you see the moon, the sun is there, and, there's that whole mechanism there. Everything's revolving and turning and all of that. So, a lot of people, well, most people nowadays, basically everybody, doesn't know exactly how it's working. You see, in school, you're taught that the earth, it turns around and it rotates. You're taught all those things and, about the planets and that, but you're not taught about the stars. Okay? School doesn't teach about the stars. It doesn't teach about the equinoxes and the solstices. It doesn't talk about the knowledge of there being a yearly shifting on its axis. The earth shifts yearly on its axis, thereby putting it in another position in respect to the universe and the backdrop of the stars. Say when the sun is behind the earth or in front of the earth, it's at the equinox, right? It's in, or the sun. This is read by where the earth is in respect to the sun, because the sun doesn't move the earth. The earth, it revolves around the sun. It takes 360 degrees. 365 days. I'll get to the degrees where those come from in a minute, all right? So the sun, all right, is either in one or another position in respect to the constellations of the ecliptic. All right, the ecliptic plane, the path the sun seems to follow along the 88 constellations of the stars. Out of those 88 constellations, there's 13 which fall along the ecliptic. This is otherwise referred to as the zodiac. Okay, I say ecliptic, so it sounds more, more relatable. People can, because people, when they think about the zodiac, or they're told, they think, oh, the zodiac, oh, the future telling, the fortune telling, or they got the 12 signs. But, there's not 12 signs, first of all. There's 13 signs that are to the tropical zodiac, frozen in time 2,000 years ago. So in those 2,000 years, people haven't accounted for the shifts, or the shifts haven't been accounted for, or the monthly shifts too. Okay, because it shifts monthly. There's like a shifting through the years. So people who read those, they're reading from 2,000 years ago, where they were then. Now it's changed. They're in another spot altogether. All right. And not only that, there's 13. Everybody knows about Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. The serpent, get it? All those religious books, they talk about the serpent being the most deceiving one. That's the first thing they deceive people with. Okay, is that serpent. That's put there from those people that deleted the proper meaning of the astronomy of the universe. Okay, they done that to cop out on even numbers, and they put, not only did they delete the 13th zodiac sign, all right, constellation which falls along the ecliptic, not only did they delete that, they deleted the length which each of those constellations go for. the length in which the sun and how long it stays in each one or each area of those constellations, which is where the degrees come in. Okay, there's a certain amount of degrees the sun spends within the area of each of those constellations, okay, which makes up 360 degrees. And that's where you get 360 degrees, okay? So what's happened is with the zodiac now, with what's referred to as astrology, it's not really a study if it's wrong, then is it? But anyway, so with this astrology, they've put 12, to cop out on even numbers, in respect to the degrees being 30 degrees for each of them. So they've put 30 degrees for each area the sun is in respect to these constellations, when they're not all 30 degrees. You know, some go for like a short time, others go for a long time. Most are around in between, 25, 30. But, there's distances which they vary in distances. They're not all the same. Okay? So there's that, okay? And so I was speaking before about the solstices and the equinox. See, you know how monthly there's a star sign each month, all right? Well, yearly, when the Earth shifts on its axis, it puts the sun appears to be in another position in the universe because of that shifting in respect to those constellations on a yearly scale, in all amounting to there being a precession of all of them, which in all there's around 25,577 shifts, and that's the all. So why am I mentioning this? Why? Okay, everybody can know this. Why? I'm mentioning this because this is what suggests there is a time frame. It's what proves there was no Big Bang. It's what proves there was no person whose name is God that created the universe. No. There's a time frame. Okay, and what does the universe consist in respect to this time frame? It consists of good or evil. It is one or the other. These are the two dominant things in the universe. Okay, and don't you think if now is a time where all these bad things are happening all around the world, where everything's mostly bad at the moment, the wars, all the famines, all the conflicts and all the sicknesses, don't you think if this is happening all the time, always, that it would only be fair if there was time for some good to be and it would all go away? Don't you think that? This is a realization I came to back in 2012 when everybody was going on about, the end of the world thing, the main thing and that. I done my homework on that and I found the truth. I actually was doing homework on other things and studying my inspirations, and I realized something. I realized that if things were bad for so long, hang on, surely there has to be a period a time where things become good, isn't it? It can't stay bad forever. There has to be a transition to go to good on an earthly scale in respect to everything. Okay? So, why people look up in respect to on this time in respect to the universe? Why people look up to the universe? First of all, they don't know what the universe is, so they're looking with these vain eyes and crying to God. Well, God is their hope, their care. They're looking for an answer. Well, they haven't got the answer. The answer, I'm telling you the answer. If they studied the answer, they would know the answer. But, people nowadays, they're really hoping for an answer. If you've been hoping, if it is your hope or your care or your God to find an answer, and you're looking up and you haven't, well then I'm telling you why you're looking up for. All right, in respect to the universe, because there is a time frame. Okay, You've been lied to, okay, from these people from all these years. And I'm here to end this lie. You might have heard of the 13th sign, constellation, which falls along the ecliptic, in which a sun appears to go, each month, every year, each month, every day it moves a degree. But yeah, yearly, there's a yearly cycle, a big yearly one. Now it's in Pisces, it's crossing over to Aquarius, so it's about maybe 200 years to Aquarius. And, just so happens that that is the promise of peace and great advancements in technology and all that. It's meant to be where all this all begins right now. Okay, so, now's difficult times. It's difficult for everybody. There's so much bad out there. There's so much. If you look at a few more videos, I'll mention it now. I'll speak about the religious books. The first thing they mention is the serpent to deceive people right at the beginning. And all of them have mentioned the serpent as well. That's the first thing they mention, so that people would, it's sort of a dirty tactic, to mention something in another way so that people don't know what it is. So their picture of the serpent is this bad story, when really the real serpent is that constellation and the meaning of it and what it means when you understand how the stars work in respect to the earth, the year, and there's the moon too. There's the moon, and the moon, when you look up, for example, that's right, the moon. The moon is very important, so I'll explain the moon. The moon is what the month stands for. A true month is of the moon, is of the phases of the moon. So you got, 29 or 28 phases, or 27 point something. There's around 28 phases, and at 29 is the new moon. And then there's the phases begin again. So that's constantly going. So that's a proper month. That's what a month is. There can't be 30 days in a month, or 31 days in a month, or 28 days in a month. There cannot be that many days in a month. They're the fake months. Them Romans put there to be remembered in the past. And they even got the names wrong. October is like the 10th month, when Oct is like 8. So you can see how stupid they were. And if you know more, so now you know more so. I'm telling you, know how more so stupid they are for lying about that. And the only way to overcome their lies, and all these lies of the past, is to first, you got to see my other video on incineration. You got to find their corpses and incinerate them, because they're cursing every day. They're somewhere buried in a coffin. They're rotten, stinking corpse, and that's their rot left behind, and that's what's cursing the people. All right, that's one thing. All the rotten thing has to be incinerated. All right, that way it goes away. It's gone. All right, the ashes, it can be filtered and burnt and incinerated down to nothing. All right, so you get rid of all of that. All right, so you can start a fresh new earth with this fresh air, without all this rotting things around. Okay. Another thing, you can begin eating. Okay, there's another thing these religious books, or they're meant to be religious, they mention. It's the consumption of those horned creatures. Now, what's wrong with those, the horned creatures? Well, that's the devil has the horn. It's depicted as having horns. All right, so if you notice through the Bible, for example, they're all told to sacrifice all these animals and eat them. The goat, the ram, they worship the cow, and then it goes all the way endward to Jesus, where he's the Lamb of God. It's the final, and that's all what they eat. And that you can see through all those stories, they're all suffering through wars and murder, and there's adultery and there's sodomy, and there's the whole book is horrible things happening to them all the way. So, you got Jesus at the end, he breaks up the fish, and, but still he's referred to as the Lamb of God, and all the stories all the way through is about them eating those creatures, and you can see what it's done to them. And then you go to other books, like you go to the Hindu scriptures, and they go worshipping the cow. They don't kill the cow, they don't slaughter it to eat it, but they milking of it. They're drinking, they're stealing the milk, they're thieving the milk, and they're drinking the milk as if they're a cow, right? And you can see what people are stealing all over the world. It's obviously where thieves come from. They're drinking that. It's not their milk. Who are they to drink the milk of there? And you go back to the Bible, the story where they're worshipping the calf. Is it not the same as amounting to pertaining to stealing, to drinking that milk when it's not theirs? It's disgusting. And they're told not to slaughter that animal, but they're slaughtering every other animal that's in that same category as the cow, such as goats and sheep. They're all ruminants too. They have 4 stomachs. They regurgitate their food, chew the cud through till it passes through each one of their stomachs. So they're ruminants. So they're still eating of that. If you're Hindu, I've told Hindus before, if you're Hindu, stay away from that. It's a trick. Right, them animals are in the same category as the cow, so don't eat them. Eat something else. Have chicken. Chicken has the wings. Angels have wings. So have of the chicken, and thus be angelical of the angel, and thus be in relation to God, having godliness, and then receive answers to the heaven. Okay? Which is to be manifest on earth. Whenever it speaks about heaven, it's always spoken about it in respect to the earth. It always is. It's not this, fancy land, this fake place where people go after they pass away, after they're deceased. No, it's when you're living. It's when you're alive now. You have got to make it happen. Okay, so you got to begin doing the things, okay, knowing how the universe works, accepting there is a time frame. There's no big explosion, big bang. People are conjuring up these pictures because they've got no picture. They're trying to make something up in their head, and then nonsense comes out when they begin being that way. And the same with these books saying that this person named God, he done it and created Adam in there, and this. No, that's not how it goes, all right? There is a time frame. There is the good and there is the bad. When the good things, they begin to become prevalent, the bad things go away and the earth begins to heal. Okay, the disasters begin to subside and to go away, and the earth can heal. Okay, and there's the scars that are left over. The picture of the yin and the yang, or the yin and yang, it's meant to mean in Chinese man and woman. But most people picture it or figure it believes good and evil. Well, it actually doesn't. So if you try to explain that to a Chinese person, they'll be thinking of man and woman. That's why I don't say that. I say Tai Chi, which is like the supreme ultimate. All right? It's the supreme ultimate. It's good and evil. It's not about man and woman. The man and woman, there are the other 2 forces in the universe which come together to make one. You see, everything in the universe is either male or it's female. The ear is female. The sound that goes in is male. The nose is female. What goes in is male. The eyes is female. What you process in is the male. Okay? The mouth is female. What goes in the food is male. Okay? And then you got your genitals, is female, and what comes out the urine is male. Okay? And then it comes down to the productive organs in respect to male and female of people. Okay? That's why they make one body. Because the penis and the vagina, that's what's male that goes in, the vagina is female, the penis is male, it goes in there. And notice that that every hole has just a specific place. The sound doesn't go in the nostril. Okay, the food doesn't go in your ear. It goes in your mouth. Okay? Well, you process through your eyes. You don't process through your nose or any other parts. Okay? There's a specific area things must go to. Now, if you're only hearing this and you haven't realized it right now, and you know, it's as if you want to argue against it, don't. Okay? Nobody else is going to tell you this. I'm telling you this. Okay? I'm coming out with this. I have sympathy. This is my sympathy. Okay? I don't sympathize for the bad things and say, no, that's the bad thing is the bad thing, cannot be sympathized for. But my sympathy I'm having is the answers that I give to you. So if anybody doesn't know that and they're suffered out there, know that the only way that you're not going to be that way is if you listen to me. You know, people are putting the thing in the wrong hole. They're sodomizing each other all over the earth. Okay, so, you know, in respect to the cycle, in the good era, it goes away. And man and woman, they come together. For every male, there is a female. In respect to people, I spoke about it in the last part too. For every male, there is a female. They come together. The male and the female comes together. It's the same age difference. And every spouse, everybody has a spouse, it's the same. Okay, it's the same for everybody. On the good side, they all come together. Everybody's with their spouses. On the bad side, that's when divorce begins to happen. People begin being the conflicts. They begin eating the devil food of those creatures, and they go the wrong way. All right? Even the pharaohs, they were buried with that devil food. You can see why I mentioned the pharaohs for one, because they've got the serpent. All right. 2, they've got the Virgo head of the age of Virgo, because they were living in the age of Virgo then. That's the age they were living in, where the sun was at in respect to the constellations along the ecliptic. It was about at the head of the Virgo, crossing over to Leo. Around 200 years to Leo, which is the lion, which is the Sphinx. And you notice the Sphinx has the headdress of the nun, of the Virgo, of the headdress. That is where that comes from. If you look at it, it's exactly the opposite to now. And if you notice too, they were losing their technology. They lost their technology. They went astray. Okay? And meat and things that are buried with them are all from those creatures, the lambs and all that sort of, the devil food. You can see they lost the way. You know, everybody goes on about, you know, oh, they're so perfect and this and that. They weren't that perfect. They were losing their technology. The technology that they had is what begins now. The cycle, okay? The time frame. This is where the good begins. It hits the peak. Right there. And then they lose it. And then the bad era begins. And that's where all the bad things happen in the bad era. If you notice there's sort of a haze, there's these certain events that nobody really knows what happened 5,000, 6,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago. It's a blur. Nobody knows what's going on. But I tell you, in the good era, it's all going to be accounted for. Every single year. It's going to be the main focus, keeping in track of things. I'm telling you this in real time. I only just realised that then, what I'm saying now, that in such regard, in respect to that. Every year is going to be accounted for. All those years, it's not going to be a mystery, a blur. Nobody knows what went on like 100, 200 years ago. They're saying that, supposedly people are saying that in 10 years, there was 1 billion people more on the earth than there was in the last 10 years. And then more 1 billion people before that. So imagine 100 and 200 years. And there's only meant to be 6 or 7 billion people on the earth. You know how much they're saying now? They're saying 8 billion people. Oh yeah, as if there's 8 billion people on the earth. As if it's gone 2 billion in 10 years. And imagine all these hundreds and thousands of years before. And they're telling you There are 2 billion people in 20 years. Are you know, come on. Look at all the wars that are happening and everybody that's passed, that's being deceased on the battlefield and everywhere else in the earth that's not being counted. Of course it's not being accounted for, as if it's been accounted for. That's why I tell you, with every death there is the offspring. Again, you're going to get nobody else telling you this. There's the same amount of people. It's always the same, but it's about the quality. It's about if it's good or if it's bad, and now it's bad. People are dying, passing away of unnatural causes early, like immaturely, before like they're meant to. So that means that people are being pregnant more often. So you're constantly having women pregnant with these babies because people's lives people are being deceased early and immaturely in life. All right. So you constantly, everybody's sick, everybody's having these babies all the time. There's no maturity. Nobody's making it to a proper, right, like a proper age. And if they are, they're not making it there and, all happy and stuff. They're all frail and they're, in seats and they can't move that good and they can hardly walk. And think about it. There has to be a time where all that evil goes away and in things are good. And then people are fit, people are healthy, putting the good thing, eating the good thing, being strong, having the exercises. That's another thing of the good. There's the exercises, Everybody with the food, not the devil food. There's other food to have that makes you strong, okay? You've got to go to that, So start thinking about and studying people in the fitness industry and seeing what they eat and sort of, be sort of the same as them. Listen to what I'm saying, all right, first. And, rice. I'm just going rice and chicken. It's grueling for me, It's very, very grueling. But you just got to remember, as long as you stay away from them devil, the devil food, I'm saying, as long as you stay away from that, you should be right. I'm telling you. You should just be, the answers will come and the bad things will come away. As long as you be consistent, you'll know what to expect. Those bad things will go away, Another method I use is I eat food at room temperature. So I make my food so it's all ready to eat whenever I'm hungry. That way, heaven is referred to as a cool place, whereas hell is the hot place. You don't want to be hot and eating and having to heat up your food. But, if it works for you, if you think that that's what, then do that. But I'm just having it at room temperature. I'll put that as an option there, as a choice for the sake of choice. If people wish to, go that way, there is that route too. All right, if things aren't really working that good on the chicken, you can say, okay, maybe you try this way or just, but yeah, as long as you stay away from those creatures, and there's not enough anyway. There's not enough for everybody anyway. Ask AI. Work it out yourself with the calculations, add it up. It doesn't add up. With chicken, there's billions of chicken already, and there can be more chicken if more eggs are left to hatch rather than you eating eggs. Imagine if you could have a whole chicken when people are eating these little eggs and they're starving and they're wondering why, let it grow up to be a chicken. You have X amount more chickens out there, all right? And it's not as if they're going to take over the whole entire earth. All it needs to be is around, I asked AI and how many chickens it would need to feed, to account for everybody. It's only around, it's about 5 to 10 times as much, all right? But it's not much when you think about it, all the earth out there, all right? So, that's with the creatures which lay the eggs. There's a certain amount that is there. There is still for every death, there is the offspring, but that's how early the lives are being cut off. The egg, they're being cut off at the egg, all right? So you can imagine if they're all mature and if they're all growing up. Okay, so, and on the other hand, you got people and you got the other animals and, but it's not the same with the egg, I figured, and the seed from the grain, the seed, there can be more planted because more haven't been that aren't getting eaten, that just stay out there. But with with people and creatures that don't lay the egg, that don't have the seed, such as people and and all that, it's not the same. All right. But anyway, you know what I mean. Just continue at it. The Earth is not being populated that much. There's no way. All right, unless it is, you got people such as Elon Musk with the rockets to go to the planets. But I'm telling you, there's another thing about the Earth and about looking up in respect to heaven. All right, and that's the distance of the sun and the moon from the Earth. All right, the sun and the moon, 108 times their diameters to the Earth. And that's why they both appear to be the same size. Now, without these calculations, without this position, there cannot be life anywhere else on any other planet in the whole entire universe. There can't be. That's what governs life. That 108, that number, that way things are positioned. It relates to, the heartbeat, the anatomy of the body, how many times you breathe per day, everything. All right, so that's another reason why that people don't know why they look up. But if you know that, you're not going to look up anymore. You're going to know what's going on. Okay, so yeah, there's about 30 minutes of me going on about heaven. All right, it has to be someday. Okay, this is what I live for. Every day I'm working at it. I'm a lot with the animals, on me the animals at the moment, because I've figured out that the animals have to be looked after. They have to be given food. They have to be given the water. They're not all going to go down to go to the lake to have a drink of water and have a dip in and have a drink, are they? No. You got to give the water to the birds. You got to, put the bird baths out there everywhere. Imagine if there was the bird baths for the birds, there would be a great earth, right? Imagine too if the people's houses weren't where the animals' houses are. Get out of where the animals live. I live in the areas where there's all these trees and that around. People are they're lopping trees to put a house there. When there's all this land, all the earth, flat land, it goes for miles and miles, and it's solid foundations to build, and they're going to where the trees are, and they're getting rid of trees. When the trees are for the oxygen, they're lopping them to put their house and to put their little, thing that they want, as if they're all good walking around, and they got there what they say is their property. It's not their property. They're not even meant to be there. Nobody's meant to be there. So yeah, think about that too. There's got to be a big move away from these vegetated areas, because it's disrupting the habitat of where the animals live. All right, it's not meant to be that way. People are meant to be where those flat areas, where there's solid foundations to build, and then go in and look after the animals and come back. All right, at least by living in those areas away from there, the animals can then be accounted for properly. You can then, you can see how many there, you can study them from the distance and go there, and where they live, that's their area, and where you live, that's your area. You don't go there and then live sort of amongst them, and then you begin lopping their trees down, and then you put the house underneath the tree, and then the tree, it falls on the house, and you got all these leaves falling on everywhere, and all these floods because you put the house at the bottom of a hill, or next to a river, as if to be, some intelligent, wise person, and all of a sudden your house is flooded, and everybody's just, think about it. Everybody's stupid. It's ridiculous. And think about me too. Every day I wake up, all right, I'm fighting this. I'm looking at this. I've seen this is happening, and I want to get the good things done so that I can live a good, 30, 40 years, at least however long I'm going to get, so that I can be, experienced to live the good. That's what I'm striving for every day. I've got the realization of what's going on out there properly. All right, so that's what I'm working towards every day. Imagine how it is to me. Yeah, I know this. I see this out there. And nobody knows it. Nobody else is talking about it. Nobody else knows what I'm telling you. They're not saying to you, they don't know, they're not talking about heaven on the earth, about how it's going to be, how it's going to be, how it has to be, how it's going to be because of, and the bad, and because of the good, and that this is the cause of this, and by going this way you can be this way, and just try it. I'm giving you the choice. It's up to you. Right? It has to happen. Nobody else is giving you the calculations. I'm giving it to you, okay? I have to, because I really have the want for this to happen so that I can live it. There's no want to die in a world that is miserable and full of mistakes. Think about it. You can't. Anybody that is listening, you're not going to want it. You're not going to be, it's not, as long as you can't go away. You can't rest until it's fixed. You can't. Nobody can. Okay, so, think about it. It's big, all right? It's the plan. I was saying again, if you look at my videos, if you look through it, it tells everything, okay? I'll go through everything, and it's not that much. And I'm telling you, it's very easy to it stays in the memory, all right? And it's the instruction. It's so easy to do, all right? It's so, the things are so, the job's there, what has to be done, it can be done very quickly and very easily. It's so easy. The answer is easy. It's very easy, the answer. It's all about recognizing what it is and then just acting upon that. Getting it done so that you can, at the end of the day, go to have a good rest and wake up and know that everything's going to be good. And know that there's not going to be any wars. That there's not going to be any famines. That there's not going to be any sicknesses. Know that. I never go to a doctor ever. Ever. I'm against drugs. Drugs are bad. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't fix what the cause is. That still affects you, what's caused you or people to be sick. And then they're trying to mask it with the drug. But yet they're still getting sick because they're still having the drug. What's referred to as medication. This is what's meant to be a practice. It's not a practice, it's a malpractice. Alright? The only practice in that area is circumcision. Okay? And I've been putting in a lot of posts lately. I've put in it